There is something that may not get a lot of news today, but it's really important. The United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary is holding a little meeting about Jim Crow. It's like lawn mowing day in a neighborhood, and it just stopped, and now it's he's just there. Thank you, appreciate that. For love of Pete. Anyway, they're having a hearing now on the latest assault on the right to vote, Jim Crow in 2021. And I am so sick and tired of hearing about Jim Crow laws. These are not Jim Crow laws, and I want you to be armed with enough information so when people say, this is Jim Crow, you say, how dare you? How dare you insult the memory of all of those who suffered real suffering under Jim Crow laws? You have no idea. Do you know what a Jim Crow law was? In Georgia, illegal for a black barber to serve white women or girls. Blacks couldn't be buried in the same cemeteries as a white. Black baseball teams were not allowed to play within 2 blocks of white ball fields. It was illegal for a black to walk into a park. Atlanta courtrooms, blacks were given a different Bible to swear on from whites because they just didn't want the grimy black man to touch the same surface. Even mental institutions in Georgia had separate white and black facilities. So don't talk to me about Jim Crow laws by making sure that you can have water, but it's not given to you at the same time they're pitching you for a candidate, is not a Jim Crow law. In fact, a lot of the things that are happening with the left, they are closer to Jim Crow laws. When we are segregating, those are Jim Crow laws. In Mississippi, you could be fined and or imprisoned for publishing anything that suggested that there was any kind of social equality between the races. You would go to jail. That's a Jim Crow law. Prisons had separate eating and sleeping facilities for whites and blacks. Hospitals, blacks would, if you went to the hospital, a black still had to go through the back door. That's a Jim Crow law. In South Carolina, the textile workers could not work in the same room or enter through the same door. You ready for this one? Or look out of the same window. That is a Jim Crow law. Not what anyone is talking about today. And to say this is worse than Jim Crow is even a bigger insult to the memory of all those who actually suffered, were imprisoned, were tortured, were beaten, were lynched. It is an insult to the memory of those who not only didn't make it through, but did and led people into freedom. How dare you? Jim Crow laws. You could be fined in Louisiana, fined or imprisoned for renting an apartment to a black person if the building had any white residents. The circus had to have a separate seating area for blacks, but not just that. You also had to have an extra ticket booth and extra ticket takers, and they had to be at least 25 feet apart. And this is a time when there was no COVID. That's for the circus. Here's my favorite Jim Crow law. Separate facilities on separate grounds for blind people. If you were black and blind, you could not go to the same place where white people who were blind could go and live or get medicine or anything else. Separate blind people spaces. That makes an awful lot of sense. The voting restrictions across the South were outrageous. Literally, literacy tests Property ownership requirements. This is my favorite. The grandfather clause. You're allowed to vote if your grandfather had voted prior to 1867. Oh, really? Well, blacks weren't allowed to vote prior to 1867. And by the way, literacy test, it was this. How many windows are there in the White House? I don't know. What? Blacks weren't allowed to vote in Democratic primary elections. Let me say that one again. Blacks were not allowed to vote in Democratic primary elections. And since Democrats always...
You said Democrats. I'm sure you meant Republican primary elections.
No. Democratic.
Which party was
primary elections? Democratic.
Okay, the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and Democrats in the South always won the general election, so if you're a black, you couldn't have your voice really heard. So it was a cute little trick that the Democrats did. Okay. No, the Democrats did that. So anytime somebody, tells you that what's happening right now is Jim Crow laws, you tell them, shove that where the sun don't shine. That's offensive to anyone who actually went through this. It's like saying, oh my gosh, what's happening with the children on the cages is like the Holocaust. Oh no, I've learned that's not true. That's not true. You'd think that that's the same as the extermination of 6 million Jews, but apparently not. Apparently not. There is a slight difference there. And why we're listening to people telling us how to define words and how to figure out if Jim Crow is actually, quoting the president, Jim Eagle, when they're the ones who say, you know what? Male and females are completely different. That's why we have to have them on, boards. Why are the females not only, you know how much different these companies would be if we had females, but by the way, at the same time, they're completely not different. And there is no such thing as sex. Male is not a male. A male could be a woman. If he just thinks he's a woman, it's okay. Why are we listening? The insane have taken over the asylum. Stop listening to them. Okay. I feel better. You feel better? I feel better. I feel better.